Hi, it's Jeneen of Jeneen Cares, where we're caring, achieving, restoring, empowering, and supporting our youth for the future. Here again with another legacy leader, Mr. Kai Hagen. Thank you for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I hope you appreciate my nice borrowed background, but I have to acknowledge, as I told you beforehand, unfortunately, while it has a very good internet connection and it was conveniently located, it has no air conditioning. So
Okay.
I'm
Well,
sitting here in a bit of a sauna, and hopefully I won't be sweating too much. But if I do, that's the reason.
okay. Well, I'll try not to take too much of your time, as I know you are a very busy man right now. So just tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and whatever you want to share with the listening audience.
Well, I mean, I could talk about that stuff for a long time. And in the short version, I'll try to give you the short version. I grew up in Washington, D.C., but I didn't grow up in Frederick County, but I've always had a strong connection to Frederick County because my family didn't really travel or go to parks or anything. But my grandparents had a mountain farm here in Frederick County, and that's where we'd go. So I spent a lot of time in Frederick County when I was a kid and going to auctions and to church with my grandmother and roaming around in the woods and everything. And really, as a city kid growing up in the city, mostly just playing sports and working, it was a completely different experience. And I fell in love with Frederick County. I always thought I'd want to end up here. And in 1995, my wife and our firstborn, the second one was born here, moved to Frederick to be here for the rest of our lives. So that was 27 years ago. And from really within 2 weeks after I got here, I got just involved in the community. I'd been doing a lot of work in environment and politics and social justice and things for years. And it was just my nature to get involved in a community, especially one where I was going to live the rest of my life and raise my family. And within 2 weeks of moving here, I was already getting involved, and I've been involved ever since. I was the chair of the local Sierra Club, as someone on a lot of boards and commissions, as an elected county commissioner, as a council member now, as the director of Envision Frederick County, as a coach, 15, 16 years of coaching soccer and basketball, and just without listing a whole lot of other things, just being really involved in the community ever since. And when I got here, I never thought, and when I got involved, I never thought that would mean running for office. But after the first 10 years of being really involved, people started to encourage me to run based on my work on a lot of issues, especially land use, growth, development, and the environment. And after saying no for a while, I finally said yes. And with a lot of help, we ran a great campaign, and I became a county commissioner, spent 4 years on the Board of County Commissioners sitting next to Jan Gardner. And I think we got a lot of really great things done, and just have been involved ever since. Finally,
Isn't that the great thing about Frederick? I was just on an interview earlier with Melissa Muntz, who we both talked about how sometimes if you want to take some downtime, you have to get outside of Frederick, because when you're here, there's so many opportunities, so much to do. And I jokingly told her that last weekend was supposed to be a self-care with my son, and we ended up doing a lot still here, having fun. And she was like, well, that's good for the economy. So, Frederick is just a great place to live. Thank you for your leadership, in so many positions. I attended an event with you at Envision, and I actually just met with one of the committee members on Envision, and I'm looking.
Oh, great.
Barb Trader, and looking forward to getting to know her a little bit more and seeing where I can help out and get involved in that as well. As I really believe in science and technology and our environment, and I think that is something that we need to continue to focus on in our school district. And so I'm excited to look at those opportunities.
Well, and it's a good place for you to get involved, because Envision isn't just about, land use and the environment in Frederick County. Its core principle is to get people more informed and engaged in the civic life of their community. Absolutely. And those issues provide kind of a key pathway to doing that. But that in general, when people are more informed and more involved, we're all better off. And that's, ever since I first met you, I mean, that's been my sense of you, is that, that's what you do. I mean, you network, you reach out, you work on communicating ideas, connecting people. So it'd be a perfect organization for you to get more involved in. I'm sure they'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. And so as I think about, that's a perfect segue into kind of like, what are some of the things in our community that has been on your mind lately?
Well, I mean, obviously the pandemic has affected everything and everyone in all sorts of ways. It's been a trying time for, for students, for teachers, for businesses, for local government to try to navigate, negotiate this process and figure out how to deal with something that, we're constantly learning more about, and it's changing and shifting. It's been pretty complicated, and it really has infected all parts of my life, right? I mean, I'd like to travel. You talked about getting out of Frederick County to get some downtime. I haven't been farther out of the state than Gettysburg or Dulles Airport in 2.5 years, which is crazy. But it's not just because I've been involved as a council member, but I've had a campaign to run, that just traveling has been more complicated. It's also that my wife, who is a MD, MPH, works in infectious disease surveillance with the state of Pennsylvania, has been working on COVID and related issues, 10, 12 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week for 2.5 years, and hasn't given us a chance to get anywhere. So for us to get downtime is usually it's about, or find some balance. It's usually about, having a decent dinner late, or, watching some funny television at the end of the night, or taking a little walk in the woods. That's often the best tonic for me anyway. And be able to get out and chill a little bit, even though things are busy and demanding and stressful and uncertain. That's sort of been my way. Those, some family time, little time in the woods, walk the dog, chill a little bit.
Awesome. Awesome. I was just thinking about self-care and what can you do for downtime. And I was talking to a few other people, a board member for the Boys and Girls Club earlier. And, his idea of, self-care is just sometimes just taking the time to just do nothing, not traveling so much. I know a lot of people have, some people have fear still of traveling and, those types of things. So,
and not all traveling is relaxing. I mean, if you're,
that's true.
You're racing around Italy for 2 straight weeks and in a different place every night and trying to see all the sights, I don't know if it's exactly the best way to chill, even if it's a wonderful experience. So.
Exactly. It can be a little tiring, either for you doing the traveling or when you come back to all the work that you have to get back to as well.
Sometimes you need a vacation from after your vacation, but that's when your work is actually even piled up more.
Exactly.
Gone.
That reminds me of a tenet of restorative practices, which teaches us the social discipline window. We have 4 different boxes: high control, high support, the combination of support and control. And it really talks about the different areas of where people can live based on internal and external factors. And sometimes after a vacation, you're kind of neglectful, or before the vacation, we're kind of neglectful. So good point. So what has been the hardest thing for you lately in general?
Well, I think just balancing everything. I mean, the last year of the council has a lot of things on the agenda, a lot of activity. Part of that is driven by the fact that, a county executive, Jan Gardner, who has been in service to Frederick County as a county commissioner and is our first county executive for 20 of the last 24 years, is, wrapping up her time as our first executive. And so there's been a real effort to try to get a lot of things done. And so that's demanding and important. But to try to balance that at the same time, that you're running a campaign for the biggest, most important office you've ever run for, or that I've ever run for, I should say, in a big county with 270,000 people. Campaigns are funny in a lot of ways. And one of them, though, is that you never do everything you can. You never finish everything. There's always more to do. You're trying to make choices about your time, your resources, all the assets, your volunteers. And as that sort of gets closer to wrapping up, so to speak, everything picks up. It's like a snowball. So deadlines are tighter, schedule is crazier. Things are less forgiving. There's more and more to do, and you want to do as much as you can. And so I think that's been what's been dominating my life recently. But it's really important. I wouldn't run for this office if I didn't think that I was the right person to serve in it and to follow 8 years of Jan Gardner. And so we've worked really hard in this campaign, and it's been demanding and fun. I mean, there are parts of it that are fun,
Mhm.
for sure. And there are parts of it that I wish no campaigns had to deal with, but
Mm.
that's the way it is.
I can only imagine. I'm just looking at the peripheral, like on the outside, and I see so many people. There's so many wonderful people out there who are really organizing and supporting all the different candidates running. This is just amazing. So restorative practices teaches us past, present, and future when we think about our interviews, when we think about reflecting with staff or students or our parents. And so we've kind of talked about like the past, we talked about the present. Let's give some advice to the parents for the future. What advice do you have for parents? What advice do you have for students for the future?
I mean, I'm not a student or a teacher, but I don't have an off the cuff answer for that. I mean, as a parent, we have two boys that we're now empty nesters. I mean, life is constantly changing. Things move quickly. The moments pass before you know it. You hear people say, take advantage of this opportunity or enjoy this time in your life or their life or in your relationship because, it doesn't last forever and things change. And, we've been living in a time of tremendous change and that affects our personal lives. And if anytime you have kids, you have a family, you're going through that, you have classes and you're a teacher, you're going through the changes in people's lives, the stage of their life. But I think the hardest thing right now is for people to focus in on what's most important to them and their ambitions and their dreams and their hopes, because they're trying to do that with all of these other stressors, whether it's, their family's economic situation or parents' job or problems at schools or negotiating the whole process of virtual learning, which works really well for some people, doesn't work so well with others, creates stress at home and with family, transportation issues and uncertainty. As you said, at the beginning, we were told we were going to, try to stay home for 2 weeks and beat this thing. And now it's been affecting our lives in one way or another for a really long time. And it's hard if you're, older and you don't have kids in school anymore, or you're not, to kind of imagine what it's like to be 8 or
Right.
14
Right.
or 18. My niece started college her freshman year at the University of Maryland. And that spring, everything changed and her entire college experience has been affected by it. And she's been able to manage it pretty well with, being pretty focused and having a lot of family support and other things, but it's tough, and
Absolutely.
I think all of that and all the other things that are happening around us, and I don't want to minimize that. I mean, there are a lot of national and global
Oh my
concerns and
goodness, yes.
other sorts of issues that different families and different people or pay more or less attention to, but that affect our lives and the
Yes.
communities that we're in. And I think that is all part of what is making it, I think, a little more challenging to just sort of focus in on what you're trying to accomplish and what makes you happy and what you need to do at this next step of your life at school and job. That's hard. So I think having good people around you, trying to find ways to chill a little bit, whether it's a walk in the
Right.
woods or reading, finding some space. I don't know. I'm
Yeah, those are
grasping at
great.
straws here.
Great,
I mean,
great.
so many things. So
Yeah. All right. Well, I know you're a busy man and I know you're in a temperature,
it's okay. Not too
situation.
bad.
Is there anything else that you want to share with our listening audience before we sign off? Once again, it's Jeneen of Jeneen Cares, where we're caring, achieving, restoring, empowering, and supporting our youth for the future. I've been doing a series of interviews with different legacy leaders, is what I call them. And so anybody can be a legacy leader. So if you have passion or purpose and you want to be on Jeneen Cares and you have a story to tell, I consider you brave enough to be a legacy leader to come on and just share some restorative energy with our community of listeners. And that is being reflective about the past, thinking about where you are presently,